All right, hey, I'm just gonna get started. Let's go. Okay, the plan. What's the plan right now? I have no idea. Except that I want to turn down. Oh, actually, wait. Look at this. Ready? This is cool. Figured out that I can do this, and then I can do. Oh, fuck. Never mind. Okay, I guess you're getting one monitor. Figured out a cool way to do like two monitors on OBS, which I did not know was possible. And never mind. Can't change it while I'm streaming. Okay, plan for right now, I think is just, let's see, I had a to do here, right here. I wanted to move a bunch of this stuff into Dolphin, because right now I'm doing a lot of logic on the game side in terms of rollback stuff. Like this stuff is, what is this? This was, oh yeah, okay. So like when I do a rollback and I kind of go through all of the inputs that we didn't get, and I'm trying to figure out what frame I need to roll back to. I have all of that logic in like the game code, and I think I'd rather that be in Dolphin. I'm kind of just generally trying to keep as much logic, I guess, in Dolphin, because I don't know. I've heard people complain about Brawl's memory limits or something. I'm not super familiar on that, but I'd rather not have to cross that bridge at all. So I've been trying to keep most of it in here. Good old Dolphin. Also, for what it's worth, if you're looking at this and you're like, holy shit, this is like really messy, you're right. My, I don't know, my philosophy, I guess, with writing this, at least right now, is just to kind of put down scrappy prototypes and then iterate it on it later. So I mean, this thing especially is kind of my main gripe. I've got a for loop out here. I've got if, for, if, like it's kind of bad. This function, honestly, is just really the only perpetrator. Most of this stuff is alright. This one thing just kind of grinds my gears, though. Okay, and I think because the reason I wanted to move this out was because I was having issues with it, I think. I don't really remember what the issue was the last time I was working on this. So I think the last time I put in a good session. Yeah. What up, Zarek? I think the last time I put in a good session of work here, I had an issue where like the I can show you in a second, but I think the frame differences, like I think it wouldn't roll back for some reason because it would just keep using predicted inputs, and for some reason it wasn't recognizing that it needed to roll back. I don't know. I guess I'll find out what the issue is. All right. What's going on? What do we got? Yeah. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. It was this. I remember. The frame difference is dummy. So I'm on local client here, right? I'm tabbed into this. So these are my local inputs happening. And then it's transferring there, but with huge lag because they're very much not in sync. Do you add lag intentionally to test? Yes, I do. I'm not right now, uh, even though it kind of looks like it. um, that's just because things are broken and not working. But oh, there's a cool crash. Um, yeah, there's this cool software that Fizzy told me about. It's called Clumsy, and it can simulate lag, or ping, I guess, network latency. It can drop packets randomly. It can throttle your stuff. It can duplicate packets. It could shuffle packets. It can tamper with them. It's really sick and very helpful. And unfortunately, made me realize that my shit just doesn't work yet. Yeah. Oh, actually, I kind of do want to show on stream. Where is it? There it is. That. Let's see. I think that's all I have to do. Because if I turn it off there, turns that part off. And then that also, yeah, it does that. Okay. And then what about here? Do I need to do anything? I don't think so. Just try that. I do want to show that my net code part of the code, oh god, okay, cool, is mostly working. I basically have been able to replicate in a kind of broad and shitty sense delay-based netcode, where you just kind of wait for the inputs to get there, and as long as the inputs aren't there, I'm on 292. As long as the inputs aren't there, you just kind of stall the game and do nothing. And that did work, I think, from what I remember. So I have, at least that was kind of my way of testing if the time sync logic worked, and it does, which means that when we get too far ahead, when our client gets too far ahead of the other client, that client will just pause and wait for the other client to catch up. And that code does work, at least for the most part, I think. And so what I've been trying to do now is actually integrate rollbacks into that stuff. And that has not been very easy because rollbacks are kind of weird. But I have kind of gotten a pretty good, I guess, testing point for rollbacks themselves, like actually rolling back to a previous frame. So yeah, here we go. So this is basically, at least I think, I'm pretty sure it's working. This is basically just delay-based netcode, but like really shitty delay-based netcode with a 2-frame, I guess you could call it a quote-unquote buffer, which basically means that if we haven't received inputs for more than 2 frames, we just kind of pause the game. It says 60 FPS up here, so it's really low down there, but even if it, like, this FPS thing won't be accurate because I'm not really skipping a frame in like a emulator sense. I'm skipping it on the game side, and the emulator can't really track that with the FPS, so the FPS is a lot lower than it'll say up here. But hopefully, if it's still working and if I haven't broken things recently, if I give it, let's say, 20 milliseconds of ping, you can see the ping go up. Still works. Still going, still vibing. I'm also playing on a keyboard, so I can't schmooze that much. Looking up at the 50, and the game will slow down considerably because it has to wait that much longer for inputs to arrive. Makes sense. Oh, it's getting a little hairy. No, it's chilling. And if I up it to like 100, it should still be fine. It'll just run mega slow. Yeah. Still chilling. And again, this is the game waiting to receive inputs before it even advances with a frame, so it will always have inputs every time. I can even up this to like 180 ping, and it'll run super slow, but it will not advance a frame until we have inputs. So things will stay synced up all the time. This is pretty much guaranteed to not desync, unless there's some weird, in-game logic that I haven't accounted for, like, I don't know, some weird Nana stuff, or I don't know. But yeah, here's delay-based netcode. Very cool. So if you happen to have 0 ping with someone, you can play like this. That's fun. But where the actual stuff comes in is with rollbacks, obviously. Let's turn that back on. There's code in Paper Mario 64 that intentionally makes it lag. What? I have not heard about this. For real? Intentionally makes it lag, like, makes it... Is that like an online game? Or is this like FPS lag? Like, that's crazy. I mean, there's probably a reason, but that sounds kind of wacky. Yeah. So I think what I want to do is actually, well, first, I want to reassess again. Oh my god, shut up. There we go. So it seems like the rollbacks are just not happening for some reason, which is why the like frame advance, or like not frame advance, the like frame difference between our local and remote client is being able to get to like 6 and 7 and just kind of stay there. And because it's at 6 and 7, I can show you once it boots up what I'm talking about. But I think it's probably because something with me not rolling back at the right time when I should be, or some logic isn't working and then it's just kind of exiting out early. One of those two. I don't remember. So yeah, this is it with the rollback logic. 0 ping, and you can see the frame difference is way too big on this client and still very large on this client. And you can also see up here, this has remote's input thing. This means that I think we have remote inputs for this wolf. So if I move this wolf, yeah, this wolf will also move. But because it's a 0 here, which means we don't have remote inputs for this player, if we move this Falco won't move. And that's probably because, let's see if we pause here. Okay, so we're on frame 1846, but we're using predicted inputs from frame 248. And frame 248, I assume, obviously, Falco, his inputs were nothing, he wasn't moving. And so it's just continually using those inputs. See, there it is again, there it is again, there it is again. It's just using these predicted inputs over and over and over again. It's never actually rolling back. I don't really know why. Although I kind of... Well, here, let's look. So it's still using these inputs. And in theory, a rollback should... Hold on. Yeah. Okay, so a rollback should get triggered when we haven't received remote inputs. We start predicting your inputs based on your last input. And then when we receive inputs, that's when we should roll back. And we obviously do receive inputs here. And so the reason that it doesn't roll back, oh, yeah, okay. I'm assuming, and I'm almost positive about this. The reason that it wouldn't roll back is because this is basically where rollbacks get kind of triggered in a sense. I'm setting this past frame data populated equal to true, and at the beginning, where am I? Here it is. This gets called every frame. It's basically how the game sends inputs into the emulator. and every frame I'm checking if the past frame data is populated, and if it is, we stop using predicted inputs, we send rollback info into the game when I reset it, and I would assume that this is never happening. And that's never happening because even though, let's see, even though we're receiving inputs, these inputs are old, right? These inputs are these are remote inputs from frame 1563, 1564, and 1565. And we're on 1570, and so none of these inputs apply to this frame. And because of where I have this logic, I don't think... Yeah, because this is trying to see if we have remote frame data for this frame, but we're receiving it for old frames. And because we're receiving it for old frames, this will never happen. So what do I need to do? How do I do this? I think what I need to do is, instead of having this here, I'm just gonna get rid of this for a second. I prefer using this for instead of comments because it kind of like, I don't know, it grays it out, although it's not doing it now. Thanks VS Code. Come on, stay with me. There we go. I like using the if zero instead of comments because it does 3, 2, 1. Don't embarrass me, VS Code. Come on. Come on, baby. Work with me. There it is. Yeah, because it does that. I like that more than, I don't know, personal preference, whatever. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, and instead of checking if we've gotten inputs in this like main thread, I think I'm going to do it in the netplay thread, quote unquote. I think I'm going to do it when I actually receive inputs. And maybe we do it like down here or something. Right? Because this is where we receive remote frame data. This is getting called from this process net receive, which is kind of an enet thing. The way enet works is you just have like a while loop with this host service, and then you give it a enet event struct, and if you get some kind of net event, it'll fill out that struct, and then you can kind of catch each of the cases if you've disconnected, if there's nothing happening, or if you've received some data. And then I process the data and then destroy it. And in here we, let's see, we just kind of check validity of the packet. We grab the command byte, which is kind of what Slippy does too. First byte of the data is always kind of an indicator of what its contents are. If we've received frame data, which is basically my kind of weird word for inputs, then we process them here, which, whoops. Oh my god, okay, hello. There we go, which is here. And so when we process remote inputs, that means we've received inputs from the other player. And if we've been predicting inputs, then what we need, this most recent, I think we would do this, and then we would do frame. But this is, what was I doing when I did it up here? Oh, I just had it, okay, I see. So here, I was just setting it to this frame variable, which I passed in here. And then in here, I got it from this thing, which is getting it from this payload. So basically, the frame that I was passing into my rollback info here, this was the current actual frame of the game. But here, this is the frame of the remote input. And the frame of the remote input is not necessarily the current frame of the game. We can interpret it like that, but remote inputs have frame delay applied to them, so I'm pretty sure I'd have to subtract frame delay on this in order to get the right frame. Ooh, excuse me. Alright. So we have that. We get the number of frame data that we've just... Oh, actually. I probably could just use that. I'm not going to do that for now, but that's probably going to screw something up. Rollback. Just to be safe, I guess. I don't know. So we get the number of frame data. Then we need to copy. What do we need to do? We need to copy the frame data that we just received that we need to use to roll back into this rollback struct, which is here. I can show you what it looks like. Just kind of has a thing for if we're predicting inputs currently. It has the frame that we realize we have no remote inputs, the frame that we have received remote inputs on, which is what I just set right here. This frame data is our predicted inputs, and our frame data is just for player frame data, and player frame data is just a frame, player index, and your actual inputs. Yeah, and then it has past frame datas, which is just 7 frame datas, and some other stuff relating to actual save states. But what I want to do here is, let me comment this out real quick. I think I want to copy into the past frame datas, which is an array, so it'll get interpreted as a pointer. So that's fine. And then from the source, I think we can just do this, right? Go blink. Right? Because frame data is going to be this, it's going to have this many. And so in theory, this variable, num rollback frame data, should be equal to this, but it might not because I probably screwed something up. But I think actually what I'm going to do is, instead of using that, I'm just going to use this. I'm going to say the source is, what are we coming from? Frame datas. We're going to go size of match player frame data times num frame datas. And yeah, that should be it, I guess. I think one thing I want to do actually, just to make sure this is vibing, is I want to do, or actually maybe instead of an assert, I'll just log it. Num frame data's rollback receive inputs. I just put a bunch of words in there. I'll get to interpret it later. I would like to print out both the num frame datas that we just received, as well as the oh, it's already going to be up there. And that's going to be up there. So actually, I don't need to do that. Cool. So that is pretty good there, I think. I'm going to try and compile Dolphin. I got to close these, though. Right? Because for each frame, we gotta check if we should stall on the frame for time sync stuff. If we do, that's fine. Time sync logic works well, I think. We store our local inputs. We send those local inputs. We look if we've gotten inputs for this frame. I feel like this could probably get moved up here now that the logic isn't in this function. Like, when do I need to check if we've rolled back? Do I need to store and send inputs on a frame that I roll back? That is actually an interesting question. Sweet. Thanks, Eric. I'll watch it later. That's a good question. I actually don't know if we need to store and send inputs on rollback frames. Actually, no, we definitely do, because if you roll back, well, actually, no, because regardless of, I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to ask Fizzy about that later. Like, is there gonna, like, on rollback frames, do I need to both roll back, but then also simulate the current frame's inputs, or should I? I'm gonna visualize this a bit. If we have frame 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then let's say we roll back, or let's say we have remote inputs, have remote inputs, da 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 da, and then we don't have remote inputs here. I guess I'll number the frame 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh god, that was awful. 7. So if we don't receive inputs here, or actually no, let's say, how can I do this? How about we don't receive inputs on frame 4? Let's say we don't receive inputs on frame 4, and we, whoa, what was I using before? This? Yeah. We don't receive inputs on frame 4. We don't receive them on frame 5. We don't receive them on frame 6. Let's say we do receive them on frame 7. If we do receive them here, that packet that has inputs for this frame will also have inputs for 6, 5, and 4. Oh, no, oh, that's true, that's true. Okay, actually, I think it's fine, because inherently, the inputs that I'm going to receive on frame 7 will have frame 7's inputs. And so when I store them and resimulate, it should just use that frame's inputs anyway. So I think I don't, this might actually be able to get moved up here, maybe. I think I can move it up there. Because I hit frame 7, I get inputs, and I have these inputs. I say, okay, we're on frame 7. We started predicting inputs on frame 4, right? These are predicted inputs, predicted inputs, predicted inputs. And so we go, okay, we roll back to frame 4. We, with the frame 4 inputs that we received in this packet here, we resimulate 4, resimulate 5, resimulate 6. We also resimulate 7, which I did account for actually up here. Right here. So we do end up hitting 7, and then the frame will naturally advance to frame 8. I think. Probably. Who knows? I guess I'll find out. Good old paint.net. So why don't we give this a go? Do I need to change anything else for that? Because yeah, this should stay here for sure. Because this is where I realize, oh, we need to start predicting inputs, and we can only realize that when we're checking for remote inputs. So this definitely stays. All right, let's try and build and run now. And I'll also give it a little bit of ping. Sweet. Oh, hey, Jan. Howdy, howdy. Right. I'll bet it crashes immediately. That would be funny. Also, I haven't actually done like match syncing stuff, which is why I pick Fox and Falco. What was it fucking on? Oh, what's happening? Is it deadlocked? Yeah, it's deadlocked. Walk. Okay, so let's see what happened. This got to frame 269 and then it can't find frame data when we should be rolling back. Okay, so the remote frame data that I have at this point and at this point, actually no, not at this point. I don't even have, wait, what? Okay, what the hell does that mean? So for here, what is this even printing out? Like for this one, let's say. We searched from this, so this is our frame with the delay minus the number of rollback frames. So this is our frame here. Our frame with delay would be 264. And then minus our rollback frames, which is 7, would get us here. Yeah, that makes sense. So it seems like it's searching in the right range, I guess. You know, okay, maybe I should just do away with this loop entirely, because I think my original thought when I concocted this was that when we don't find frame data and we haven't been predicting inputs, so we like just started not being able to get remote inputs, I would go through the current frame, including delay, because I'm iterating through remote frame data, which also includes delay. So I'd go through that, and then I'd say, wow, that's greater than the frame with the delay minus our 7 frames of max rollback. And then see if we can find the frame data that are... I'm kind of getting the feeling that maybe I should just ditch this and literally just iterate through the remote frame data itself and kind of ditch this stuff. Because, like, let's see. This was over here, that was over here. Because in this one, we have remote frame data, or wait, oh, we don't. Wait, we don't even have this frame's remote frame data in either of them. Right, oh, right, which is why it's deadlocked. Cringe. What were to happen, or what would happen if I moved this back down? and gave it a chance to do this stuff. That might help it. Because then it would be able to proc this, which drops local frames that are acknowledged by the remote client. There's so many words, dude. Local and remote and... So we move that down there, then these two have a chance to run, and that might help things. Can't do it there. I hope. Maybe. We don't know. Excuse me. Sweet. Okay. Let's see what damage that does. I think at some point I really should just kind of drop what I'm doing now and figure out how to load into a match with characters so I can speed up that part of the iteration process, you know? Okay, here we go. Interesting. Still a huge frame difference. There's some yellow text on this one. Let's pause and see what's going on. Okay, so we are getting our rollbacks procced. It seems like, let's see, we're using predicted inputs from a few frames ago. That's good. So on frame 748, sorry, actually, let's go to 747. Oh, okay, it wasn't even... Interesting. Num frames for resim invalid. Our end frame is lower than our begin frame. Why is that? That might have to do with that thing that I did earlier, which was, where did I do that? It's down here. Might have to do with this. So how many frame datas did I receive? I received 3 of them. And it says the... Where is it? Here it is. Received 3 frame datas, and the I'm looking for that. Oh, the frame data diff, which is the end frame here and the begin frame here. Okay, so the end frame is oddly low. Why is that? Because the end frame should be getting set here to... Oh, shit. Okay, yeah. That makes sense. Huh. I think this is... Okay, okay, so this is why I moved this out of... This is why I had it in that other place before, because I need to know on what frame in the game we've received inputs so that I can figure out how many frames to roll back. And I'm setting this end frame not equal to the current game frame, but like just equal to the remote frame that we received, which is totally irrelevant. So I either need to move this back, but then that would kind of defeat the point of why I moved it here. And that would just introduce that annoying other issue. So I think I do need to keep this logic here, but I need some way of getting what the current game frame is in this function. And can I do that with, I think I could just track what the current frame is. Okay, one thing that is different between what I'm doing, or like my general stuff, and Slippy's stuff, is that Slippy doesn't actually use the internal game frame timers. I'm pretty sure Slippy actually has its own frame timer that it manually increments whenever it acknowledges that a frame has gone by. I don't know if I'll be able to find the code that I'm referring to here. It's like frame index. Let's see. Okay, maybe not. Do frame. Really, nothing. I don't believe that. Okay, whatever. GitHub search is bad sometimes. Pretty sure Slippy keeps its own frame timer, and I'm kind of considering just doing that, honestly, because what I'm doing is not keeping my own frame timer. I'm just using the game's frame timer, so right here. And then wait, there we go. I got the current frame and I pass that in here, and then I pass that in to EXI right here. And that kind of just trickles down. So I might do that, but the other thing I could do is instead of using my own timer, I could just like do a band-aid solution here. I might just do that just to test it. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that actually. I'm literally just gonna go here, and I'm gonna go, actually no wait, it's a better place. Let's do it here. I'm gonna say signed 32 game frame, I guess. And hit that on -1. Stop playing with me, there we go. And then in here, should I just assign it to this or increment it? I'm gonna assign it, because one thing that using this in-game frame thing does that's kind of nice is that whenever I roll back or re-simulate, this kind of just automatically gets incremented or managed or decremented. And it's also kind of a good indicator that I'm like rolling back that section of memory that contains game timers and some of that other stuff. So I kind of do like using it, and I think I would like to keep using it, but for now, I think I'll just say this game frame equals frame. Not that bad. And then down here, if this ends up working, we'll figure out a better way to manage that. Now, instead of doing that, I can just do this game frame. Let's say on frame that. Sweet. This is assigned and this is unsigned. It's probably going to complain, but it might not. I don't remember. Dolphin has a bunch of compiler options turned on that are like, will create errors out of warnings, or yeah, for a bunch of stuff, which is really nice, but sometimes it's annoying when I'm just doing random shit. I guess we're chill. Boot that up. Let's boot this up and let's see what happens. Syncs up, kinda. We're still looking shitty, but now it'll start rolling back, I think. Nah. It's kind of dog water. Frame diff is still real high on that side. What's this warning? Can't find frame data when you should roll back. It's still giving me that. On this side, though, it's looking like it's getting all of its inputs, so I assume this is the client that is... Yeah, local here. Yeah, so this client is behind. This client is way behind. This one's way ahead, and because it's ahead, it can't find any remote inputs. And so it's trying to find a frame for predicted inputs. These are the remote frame data it has access to, and it does not have access to the current frame. And so in theory, this should time sync, which it is. Couldn't find frame data when we should roll back. Will time sync, sending time sync, stalling. Cool. We go to this next frame. The frame difference has gone from 5 to 4, which it should. That's good. And working. We find our local. We don't find any remotes still. We're still just on 1054. This time, though, instead of time syncing, it's it does find a frame for predicting inputs because we just received 1048 through 1050. Oh, I see. Okay, so on this frame, we... Oh, there's so much thinking, dude. This is hard. I think on this frame, we didn't have enough remote inputs to roll back in general. So this is just a time sync because we don't have enough inputs. But then on this frame, we do actually receive inputs here. We receive 3 of them from 1048 to 1050. And that's pretty damn close to this frame. And so it's able to find a frame for predicting inputs, that being 1050. And then what happens? We keep using them. We still haven't received. We received more frame data here. 49 through 51. And then on this frame, we still don't find it. We're still using our predicted inputs. But because we had received inputs after predicting inputs, it'll do a rollback, which is what we just did. We're saying our end frame is that, and our begin frame is that, which is totally not right. Predicted input match of a no rollback shouldn't. Yeah, okay. That's a redundant statement I can get rid of. Footprint thing here. Which one should I get rid of? Get rid of this one. Okay. So it's still, the issue is still with finding what frame we should roll back on, I believe. Right? Because when did we last have remote inputs? We didn't have it here. Oh, and then it tried this again. So everything seems like it's working how it should be working. Our logic is flowing, if you catch my drift. I think the logic is flowing. It's just hiccuping right here when I'm trying to find what frame it should be rolling back to. But I don't know a good way to get at that information because I'm figuring out that I have to roll back in this netplay thread, or in this other thread. Hmm. going on here? Last frame timings. Can I use that? Maybe. What was this supposed to be for? It was. This is a time sync update, which happens when we send inputs. So maybe I could use this. Maybe. I don't know. When does Slippy send down like a rollback signal? Slippy's basically my Stack Overflow at this point. I'm very familiar with this code base now. Okay, I'm gonna go here, and I'm gonna go here and here, I think, and then let's do handle online inputs. Okay, so they handle sending inputs like that, and then maybe it's in here. I don't remember. Sending frame num. So I think this code that it's doing is basically mine is equivalent to this stuff, the getting my inputs for game. Copying the pad data over and then appending it to the read queue. Yeah, okay, so that's kind of the same thing. What is this though? It's going through the remote players, and if the remote inputs at this player isn't empty, and the back, which I think for Slippy means the oldest frame, is less than the minimum frame read. What is that? What's getting passed in there? This thing. The min element between the latest frame read and the latest frame read plus, and what's the latest frame read? And int array. And, excuse me. When we iterate through the remote players, we get their remote pad data, and then we assign the frame. What? Latest frame. It's results at I. Okay, what the hell does this do? I mean, I can kind of assume what it does, but if it's empty, we just give it an empty one, it looks like. I think this is how I would like to refactor this function. That seems pretty clean, is to have like a get remote pad, and then I can handle giving it an empty pad or not in there, and then I wouldn't have to have a billion for loops everywhere. That might be nice. And then it says with the latest frame is 0, copy. Start at the beginning, go to the end. If the current iterated frame is greater than this, so it's just finding the greatest frame, I guess. That might be relevant, because what I'm doing right now in terms of my remote input like buffer or queue is I'm kind of just doing it naively, where think it's in this one. Yeah. So whenever I receive remote inputs, I basically just kind of push it onto this double end queue. Player frame data queue is just it's one of these. It's a DQ of unique pointers to player frame datas. I just push that back. I also have a map to kind of keep track of frames so I can index into it quickly. And this is kind of how I'm managing the size of it, is I just kind of have some arbitrary max size, and then I pop off the oldest one when it hits that size. And that kind of seems like it would work, but it's not like clean. Like this seems clean. You know what I mean? Because with this, I think as soon as you read in remote inputs and like lock them into the game, it just gets rid of them. And so the remote input queue would kind of grow and shrink depending on how many inputs you need to keep in your buffer, depending on like ping and lag and shit. And that's kind of nice. So I think I will end up doing that as well. Copying more code from Slippy, very cool. But until then, I need to figure out this part a little more, because this won't, I don't think this will really help. I was trying to figure out when Slippy sends a rollback command though. And I still don't know when that is. I don't think it's in here either. The Slippy send pad, this doesn't do anything with the read queue. Yeah, this just pushes it to the pad, grabs the last frame that was acknowledged, does some shit with it. This is sending our local pad to a remote player, and this is updating time sync stuff. So there's nothing in there. What if I just roll back? Just go through it. I think this is for playback stuff. I don't think I care about this. Yeah, I think it's mirroring. Rollback code? What's this in? Prepare frame data. What is that? Command read frame. Where does this get called from? I'm gonna get up search. Oh, jeez. I gotta go here, and I gotta go here, and I gotta go read frame or something. Capture. Okay, it's somewhere in here. Get frame. Send online frame. Is this it, maybe? What's the number that they use? Command read frame is 0x76. It's this one. Okay, so let's go with that one. Let's search for it. Okay, dude. Come on, man. I know it's used. There's no way it's just there. There's no fucking way. Okay, well, thank you, GitHub. Can't wait for people to say this causes more phantoms. Yeah. Me too. 4 more pages of the essay. You got it. Power through. Okay, I don't really know. That didn't help very much. I suppose I could just try and look through it manually. Because I know, I think it's either in here or in here that they do rollback logic. This is sound stuff. Sound stuff. Sound stuff. I think that this is where it happens. Let's do EXI. Here it is. Okay, so this is where they get the response after. So they send pad data here, and they receive more data here. It'll either skip the frame, it'll handle a disconnection, or I guess a continue. Or it's overwriting data based on frame delay. Copying local inputs. Oh, I do also need to do that. Because I don't think... Wait. Oh, no, I'm doing it down here now. Because I'm only copying in... Wait. Wouldn't searching with VS probably be better instead of GitHub? Yeah, it would. But then I'd have to download the Slippy repo, and that would take a minute or two. GitHub search moment. I think I'm only copying remote inputs in here, so I think a to-do me. Make sure to also, or actually no, this shouldn't be here because I don't really care about it there. Might be better to do it like here. Make sure to also copy in local inputs for the past frames. Yeah. Cool. Because I think right now I'm just putting remote inputs in for whenever you simulate. Gonna have to also do local shit though. Okay, there's a lot in my head. What was I doing before? Whoops. Actually, I don't need that. We're here. Oh, we're trying to figure out. Ooh, interesting. We either don't have a save state or run a rollback. What does this mean? I don't know what it means. We're missing inputs from more than one player. Check and see if we receive any new inputs that would allow to compare those to past production. Okay, so I think that's another thing that is unfortunate, and is one of the reasons I want to make sure I have as much of the kind of business logic in Dolphin as possible. Because a lot of Slippy, like there's a lot of the rollback logic that Slippy uses is all kind of in the game code as opposed to the Dolphin code, and especially because they use assembly. Makes it really hard to read. And so even though I do have the luxury of having all this code in kind of C++/C, I still just want to have as much of it in Dolphin so it's a little more readable and portable, and I can use a standard library and shit. Much nicer there. Okay. This kind of seems like, oh, excuse me. This kind of, oh, okay, yeah. So here, they're checking to see if inputs have changed. So these two lines right here are equivalent to this compare inputs function that I have, which right now is just kind of doing this shit, but whatever. I do need to figure out what the dead zones are for the sticks and the triggers, so I can account for those, because Slippy does that, which is very cool. Yeah, this stuff. Dead zones. Which is cool, because like basically even if you're holding down a trigger, like if your inputs are different from what, like if a rollback should have happened because your inputs were different, but your sticks were in the dead zone, so like it doesn't it doesn't affect your actual character, Slippy won't roll back. Very minor thing, but I don't know. I think that was kind of a cool thing to look at and be like, oh, it does that. That's sick. You know? Anyway. the same. So this is where they wouldn't roll back. Increment reading index. Yep. But then where do you guys roll back? Check if we've caught on. Trigger rollback. This looks like it. Store the end frame index. Remember when. Oh, okay. And this is the other thing. I see. Because Slippy does its rollback logic on the game side, it has access to the current frame basically always. Whereas this is like the one spot when we don't have access to the current frame, but it's also like the one spot that I want to have access to it. Oh. Okay, so I'm gonna have to switch this around then. Instead of doing this here, I think I will need to do it back up here. But, because see, the problem was that it was here. And the problem with it being here is that this section only actually gets called if we find remote frame data for that frame. But the problem is that even if we do find remote frame data, but the remote frame data is old, if the remote frame data that we receive is old, this will not proc, it will not get called. Because we're only checking for if it's the remote frame data is equal to the current game frame. But we still can do a rollback even if the remote frame data we received is old. So I think I might actually want to move this logic like down here or something, maybe. I.e., if we haven't found remote player inputs and we are using predicted inputs. Don't I have an else on this one? I do. So how can I, what do I need to, okay, so I need to figure out a way to determine when we've received new frame data, even if the frame data is old. And all the solutions that are popping into my head are just being stupid and using like another member variable and tracking it there, which I don't like. I would much rather have it just right here. But it really shouldn't be there. Really shouldn't. And yeah, also not having that. I think I would like to keep it out of this function as well, because this function as well as this function, probably separate that a little more. So visually, these two, oh, as well as this one, those are all called from this other thread, which is just receiving like net packets. And I'd like to keep as much game, I guess like game logic-y stuff out of these functions as possible, even though they're both already filled with game logic stuff. This one not really, actually, because this one just processes it and then adds it to this remote frame data queues and maps. So I kind of like the structure of that. This one might need some work. I don't like how I'm doing this in this other thread, but I got a mutex, it's probably fine. So I think I want to do it. So how would we realize that we have new frame data anyway? Or, you know, not counting this stuff. I don't know what I'm saying. Sometimes I just say words and hope that thoughts come into my brain, but that is often not what happens. Sometimes the thoughts don't come and then I'm just saying words. Because I could just move this down here, because this is where we say, oh, okay, we just didn't find remote frame data for this frame. And so I could say, okay, if we haven't found remote frame data, right, we're inside this stuff, and we, just like I'm checking here, and we are using our predicted inputs, which is getting checked here, but then how do I differentiate us? Or wait, no, sorry. If we are using predicted inputs, then we hit here. But how do I differentiate whether we are using predicted inputs and we should continue to use predicted inputs? And how do I differentiate that from we have been using predicted inputs and we just received new inputs, so we should now roll back? How do I do that? Lo-fi is mega loud in my ears, even though it's 5%. I suppose I could just, like, I could just do something stupid. Should I just do something stupid? I'm gonna do something stupid. Sometimes that's just the best way to do it. So down here, we do this, but we already know that we are using, because this is the else on this thing. So we are using predicted inputs, we already know that. What I want to check is I want to do, I'm just going to make a static int remote queue size equals this remote, wait. Yeah, remote player frame data. There's a hair on my keyboard. Cool. At player index dot size. That gives me a size t though. I'll just do that then. Wow. Actually, we can just initialize it to 0 because it's just going to be, yeah, that's fine. And then we'll say if remote queue size does not equal our remote player frame data at the player index dot size. No, actually, do it like this. New remote queue size. Put that up there. And we can get some English. I always like doing, I don't know, maybe this is just a personal thing, but like whenever I have stuff that I'm checking like this, like I do it up here. This thing. Like what I had, but like instead of just doing if and then having all of this inside of the if statement, I like kind of separating it out into a variable and naming it. I don't know, the more English I have in my code base, the better, because then I can read it a little more. Flows more like a sentence. Anyway, so if the current size of the remote queue does not equal what it was before, basically, this is like a actually, let's just rename this. Let's just do brief. So if the previous remote queue size does not equal the new one for this frame, then we know we have received, between the previous call to this section and the current call, we have received remote inputs. So that does what I want, right? So I guess we can just kind of go slap this in there. Like that. I think, maybe, I think that works. And then we have access to the current frame, which is great. We can just set it. when we're copying over, oh gosh, when we're copying over the remote frame data into this past one that we use for resimulation, how do I do that? Let's say, okay, in the remote player frame data queue, at this current player, what do I want to copy? I want to copy I don't have access to this stuff, obviously. What did I do before? I don't remember. Oh, I had access to the frame datas before, so I don't really know what to do here. I would need to say, what would I need to copy in? I'm just gonna write something. Start typing, see what happens. I need to copy in I don't know, frame minus max rollback frames, right? Something, I don't know. At the current frame. Oh, there it is, yeah. At the current frame. No, not at the current frame. Shoot. Oh my god. Okay, yeah, I really need to do the actually I might do that right now. I think I'm just gonna do that right now, actually. In this, no, not in this. In here, I think yeah, another thing I want to do is I want to transfer more of this logic into the netplay class. Just so I can like match Slippy as much as possible. At a certain point, I feel like I might just like actually copy Slippy's logic entirely, like all of it, and see if I can retrofit it and just get it working. That'd be kind of funny, I think. Because I remember initially I was talking about it in the Slippy Discord, and I think it was Fizzy, or maybe it was someone else. Someone was like, why are you doing it all again? Why don't you just copy everything in Slippy? Because, like, I don't know, I just wanted to do it myself so I could kind of learn about it a little more. But at this point, it kind of would be interesting to just copy Slippy stuff, because if it works, and I certainly understand it a lot better now, and I would be able to work with it even if it is just totally copied over. Okay, so I need to be able to get the point in the remote player frame data queue where this current frame exists. Well, but it wouldn't. It might not. Wait, so... Do I have to do this thing again? Or something like it? That would suck. Because as soon as we... Okay, I'm going to run through it again. We realized we didn't have remote frame data. We realized we have been using predicted inputs. We also realized that the number of remote inputs is different from when we last checked it. I poop. That's sick. Gotta love Mr. Rogers. Train of thought. Where to go? Right. So we've received new remote inputs. So I think I would need to do another loop here. I need to say... I need to try and find not necessarily the current frame, but the most recent remote frame. Wait, the most recent remote frame. So couldn't I just do at player index dot back, and that gives me that back dot get. Shit, but man, that's icky. Actually, yeah, this kind of gets icky because I don't think I can kind of do this mem copy all at once. I think I'm gonna have to do something a little more annoying. Have I used I? Probably have. It's closed. No. I is less than, I think, num frame data is maybe. I think I might have to do something like we copy into that at I, grab the address of it. I'm gonna delete this so I can write it myself and have that train of thought. I'm gonna X out these two. Okay, so for each frame data that we need, what do we copy? We copy in the remote. My brain's not working. It's kind of difficult to think through, though. There's a lot of moving parts and things to remember, and my code is not clean, so it is hard to keep it all in my brain. Actually, what if we iterate? No. I think the problem is that, oh, no, I have the map. I have the map. So actually, instead of using a num frame datas, I'll still keep that, but I can do I is equal to the beginning frame. And then, well, it's less than the end frame. And then we copy into here, we copy from my map, which I forgot I had until now. At player index at, yeah, because what this is it is a array where each of the there's 4 entries, each one for each player. And it just kind of has the frame as the key and a pointer to that player's frame data for that frame as the value. And this kind of gets tracked alongside this queue. And so I should be able to do that at I, and that should just give me the pointer, right? So that's all I need, and then size of match player frame data. I think, yeah, that's that. Let's see if it builds. Ooh, nice, nice. A few of these. Oh, actually, you know what I want to do? Yeah. This is such a banger track right here. Love it. That's so good. I don't listen to video game music that much, but this YouTube video track list in particular hits real good. Anyway, we are on 415. What's the problem? Signage? Signage, yeah. Because these are unsigned and that is signed, and so I could just do that. Because I only use that for indexing, and indexing doesn't really care. And then we also got 414 non-frame data's initialized but not referenced. What are you talking about? Oh, right. Good point. Get rid of that. Cool. The GameCube boot up is my ringtone. Damn. We're good? Okay, we're all good. Let's give it a go. I think. Do I think Instacrash? Yeah, my guess is on a full crash, a full dolphin crash. Either a full dolphin crash or it deadlocks trying to time sync. Those are my two guesses. Let's find out. Oh, for real. Instantaneous crash. Okay. Damn. Let's boot up Visual Studio and see what's going on. Close out some of those. And then we can build. And then after I build, I want to sync it. Secondary. I'm going to go here, we boot up Project Plus. I'm going to go to Visual Studio. I'm going to attach the debugger to my secondary process. And now we're chilling. All right, let's see what's up. Bah. What happened? Crash here. Okay, cool. I'm chill with that. That makes sense. It's right here. What was it? Was it a read? Bad read. Probably an index out of bounds. Move at I. Okay, I think I'm missing something. 2-bit no flip would bet channel points on type of crash. I'm pretty sure Fizzy did that at some point when he was working on something. He would boot up and you would be able to bet. That'd be funny. I would do that. I have no idea how channel points work though, or betting or any of that Twitch stuff. Okay. I assume it's crashing because the frame doesn't exist in this map, which seems weird. I feel like it definitely should exist, but I guess not. Although, because won't that hit this frame? I'm confused why it's crashing instantaneously. Because I only do rollback logic after like frame 250. At least I think I do. It's not here, is it? No, it's not here. It was... Yeah. Oh, but then I... Wait, hold on. Actually, should I do it in this one? Yeah, okay, let's move this to here. And then I'll move this comment up here. Yeah, basically I just... 250 is about-ish. I haven't tested exactly, but when you load into the game it does 3, 2, 1, go. 250 is about when you can start controlling your character for real. And in the first few frames of the game, it does a bunch of file loads and like generally my time sync logic kind of does its thing there. And so once we hit frame 250, it's pretty safe to assume that it will both not really be any like file loads or weird shit that would screw up rollbacks, and things should in general be pretty synchronized between the two clients, which is why I chose that. Yeah, okay, so now that it's past this frame, this should be populated. I'm pretty sure it was crashing because this point was getting hit, and then this point was getting hit. It was before frame 250, so then it was hitting this. It might have received some player frame data, and then it might have gone in here, and then it might have gone here, but the map definitely wouldn't have had these two things. Maybe, okay. I don't know. There's a lot of logic I think I'm skipping past, but I'm gonna see if it works now. Alright, let's go. Alright, do we think it's a crash? Do we think it's a screw up? I don't think it'll crash. Okay, we're chilling. Looks like we have remote inputs. Ooh. Ooh, a double crash. Damn, okay. Real shoddy? That's sick. Very cool. Let's boot this up again. Okay, what's going on here? Let me know, Visual Studio. Oh. Hello? To leave a frame, can't roll back, sending dummy pad. And we're deadlocking. Cool. Very cool indeed. Why is that happening? Checking to drop local imp. It's not pushing. Why is it not? Okay, it's trying to roll back on that frame. Why? Shouldn't it? Okay, that might be screwing it up. Interesting. I think this should not be here. I think it should be where it was before. But I think it should also be here. Probably make it a constant so we don't have to keep track of it. Game full start frame. That's a bad name for it, but whatever. Okay, that should work, I think. Or at least not crash, obviously. Maybe. I think one thing I might also try doing that I've had in my head, because I've kind of been working on this sort of phase of the project for a little while now, and it's kind of gotten pretty messy and a bit cluttered. Not necessarily the code, although the code is cluttered, but it's gotten a bit cluttered in my head about like where things are happening and how I want things to work. And now that I've kind of gotten a much better idea of what needs to happen and how it needs to happen and where it needs to happen, I think if I literally scrap all of my kind of rollback specific code that I've been working on recently, it might make things a bit easier. We still got a crash. Okay, cool. Oh, excuse me. All right, give me the info. Boom. What's up? Here again. Okay, cool. We back. It seems like it's really not a fan. Okay, this only has 4 things. Oh, no, it's got all that stuff. So we're going from 251 to 252. Basically, we're only checking. I think this should be greater, less than or equal to. Actually. Bonk. Let's do that. I don't really know how these things are laid out internally. Is this what I need to be looking at, or is it this? Probably not that. Probably not that. Here, probably just this. So this has data for... Interesting. It has 247, and it does not have 251. Although that's probably because... Oh, that's probably because... that. So this doesn't have the frame data that we want when we're looking for it. I think what I need to do, instead of going from the beginning rollback frame to this end frame, I think I need to be going from the end frame, because the end frame is 252, and I think I need to be going to 252 minus 7, which would end up giving me an actual value here. So I think I'm going to try that, actually. I'm going to go in here, make the change, because I like this more. So I think I'm going to say we're going to start at the end frame, which is basically just... Actually, you know what? Make it a little shorter. Starting at the current frame, while it is greater than or equal to the current frame minus max rollback frames, decrement. And then we do that. Let's give that a go. That seems a lot more sane, I think. Hopefully. Skim over my essay. Yeah, I got you. I can do that. All right. Let's give it a go. No instant crash. Oh, never mind. Damn it. That's tough. Here we go again. One of these. One of those. And then one of these. What's going on? Give me a diagnosis. Same deal. Huh. Same shebang. That's cringe. What's our current frame? Our current frame is 252. So this would obviously be, it'd go from 252, it'd go down to 250. I assume 250 doesn't exist here. Sure don't. Only got 247. Oh, right. Because I'm iterating from the current frame down. This is not the frames that I should be copying. This is just trying to find the most recent frame that I can copy from. What is this trying to do? I'm confusing myself. No, this should be what I'm trying to do, but it's obviously not. I suppose I can do something like this just to get a better idea of what's going on. I think I'm going to grab our frame data pointer and we're going to say it's past frame data. And we're going to say it's equal to that, but we're only going to do that if this remote frame data map at the player index dot count I basically just means, does it exist? Like that a bit more. Else, let's give ourselves a log. Go back. No received new frame data. No. Finding. What am I finding? Finding remote inputs to copy. Couldn't find frame. Oopsie. Couldn't find frame. We'll give it I. Okay, this time I'm just gonna start it from VS Code again in case I get another crash, which I probably will. Give it a run here. And do this again. So it builds. I am very excited to get this figured out. It will happen eventually. I'm making good progress. I'm figuring things out. Rollbacks are like mostly working, kinda. There's like one part that I kinda need to fix, but if I can fix that, they're pretty much ready for testing. Very excited to get to that phase. But this is kind of the meat of things. So I'm expecting this to take like, well, I have honestly no idea how long it'll take, but I wouldn't be surprised. I guess that should be the wording. I wouldn't be surprised if this. Oh. Okay. There we are. Frame difference still sucks. This client is complaining. Let's see what it's complaining about. What's going on, baby? What's happening? What's happening? Interesting. Couldn't find using those. I think this is just generally faulty logic. I don't think this should work. But because basically this is like, okay, we just received some frame data and but doesn't this lock the yeah, this locks remote pad mutex, and the remote pad mutex also gets, actually why don't we lock it here. This doesn't mess with it, right? Yeah. So yeah, this locks from moped mutex, and so does this. So we know that remote inputs aren't just gonna like show up in the middle of this function. So that's cute and awesome in poggers. I'm sorry I said that. I shouldn't have said that. That's my bad. That's my bad. Let's see. What I'm thinking I need to do is I'm thinking that this is on like, even if this only find, this could like find 3, well, I guess that's kind of the point that it might, wait. When is it? Hold on. Trying to find, okay, so it finds 552 for predicted inputs. Holy shit, why? Shouldn't roll back. Oh, because it just cascades. And it continues to just time sync and then predict, and then it can't roll back. So it just time syncs again and tries to roll back, and then tries to roll back, and then time syncs, and then fucks up. Very cool. This isn't right, though. It shouldn't be doing this, for sure. Well, it might be. I wasn't really doing any fancy schmancy inputs. Wait, this is a problem, though. Every single frame. Maybe not every frame. Yeah. But it hits this point. This might be where I paused this client, though. Which I guess would make sense. So I'm not going to ignore that, actually. But this one's finding stuff correctly, so I assume this is the client that's, like, behind, and this one's the ones that's ahead. But it's not doing its job. That's for sure. One frame predicting inputs 534. What? I think what I honestly should do is basically just find I equals frame. I'm just gonna say like, well, I is greater than or equal to it's fucking, I don't know, 0. Literally just continue to search the whole thing. That's so awful. I hate that. I might do it though. Or what if we just do frame minus like 50? Just to like fucking test it. I don't know. Let's do that. So let's search 50 frames in the past. And if we find a frame that exists in the past. Whoa, excuse me. Sorry about that. If we find a frame that exists in the past, we copy that. Oh, well, that's not gonna fly. That I'm using I here. Wait, was I doing that before? Oh shit, I was. Maybe that's why things are fucking up. Because I is some like huge number, and this only has such an array of 7. That's annoying. I'm just gonna say, okay. I'm gonna go back to what I was doing before, so that this I can be correct. But I do need to do something like this, where when the frame data we get, let's do u theta to frame to check equals something. I'll fill that in a sec. We'll put it here, and we'll put it here. And we'll put it here. Oh, Animal Crossing, let's go. So the frame that I want to check, close out of these, actually, real quick. Is it gonna crash? Oh, there we go. Why don't we just do what we had before? We see the current frame minus I. Sure, why not? Okay. I feel like this still won't work, but it might give us different results. And that's what I'm hoping. Bop. What's going on? What's going on? What are we looking at? Are we looking at... We have remote inputs here. And they're certainly not great. Oop, I saw a bit of red text. That's sometimes a good thing. Might give us a hint. What's going on here? Is it the same thing? Looks like it's the same kind of dealio. Predicted inputs match actual inputs. I'm glad that this time sync stuff is working though. That's a very good sign. Is that even though my rollback logic is broken, it's still managing to kind of consolidate or, you know, time sync when it should to keep the clients generally in sync. That is a very good thing. Because the time sync logic wasn't there. You know, one client might get to frame 1000 when the other client is at frame like 800. But luckily that is not the case. You know, here you can see the remote client is roughly at frame 863 when our local is at frame 868, which is very good. Whoa, excuse me. A difference of 5 frames. Sometimes 7, sometimes 8. But you know. Ooh. Yeah. Oh yeah, okay, I did see some red text. I wanted to see what that was all about. Where's that? Come on. Oh, there it is. Ooh. Oh, interesting. Okay, so here actually. Wait, what was it doing before? Shouldn't roll back critical matches actual inputs. Yeah. That's all fine, but it looks like this time it saw that the predicted inputs did not match the cool that the predicted inputs didn't match the actual remote inputs on this frame, which is just an integer overflow, I think, because the end frame is 753. Wait, okay, why would it do that? Predicted inputs didn't match on this one. What's this? That's the frame minus the frame delay. I guess I wouldn't really know what this frame is. Cool. Well, oh, actually, no, I can figure it out. Because I can do this. I can say, okay, integer limits. Thank you, Microsoft. The number's 429 something something. This one. And what we can do is we can do calculator. Let's go to a normal calculator. We could grab this number and then subtract this number. So it's a one frame difference. Or it's a one frame difference between, wait, what am I trying to say? That this minus this is -1, is I think what I'm trying to say. Why would it be -1? Oh, I bet it's because we're not copying over things properly, and so when it's trying to read in the past frame datas for stuff that we haven't copied in properly, those values are just initialized to 0. So this value right here is going to end up being 0. It's going to subtract 2, and this is going to end up being -1-ish, and then because I'm printing unsigned, should be an I for signed, it's going to screw things up. And it's also going to royally screw up this begin frame thing, I think, because this is unsigned. This is signed. But that's kind of freaking me out because it seems like that is working. A little odd. Whatever. Huh. And it says attempted to load. Oh, well, I guess because even if it is assigning it to a U32, the bits would still be preserved. And then we end up sending rollback info through EXI over to here, over to here, and then, right, and then I parse it into a signed 32, which is why it's actually reading the negative correctly. So what I'm trying to say with all this is that what I have here is actually correct and fine. Now that I changed the printout, it won't display this huge number. It'll actually display, -2 or something. Something a little more human readable. And it's because I... Sorry about that. It's because I am not copying everything properly. Why am I not copying everything properly? Well, I know why, because this implementation is fucking weird and I haven't fully thought it through. But one thing that I am noticing is that even though it's just generally not working, it also kind of seems like it totally is working, except for this one section, which is really interesting and kind of hype. Because if I can get this logic worked out and it copies inputs correctly, then that would mean that when it gets to the point of actually doing a rollback, it will properly do a rollback. Because right now, it is not properly doing a rollback. Because, these values are bullshit and don't mean anything and are not good. But once they are, it will roll back. And as soon as it does roll back, the game won't have to freak out and not be able to find things and time sync and lag everything to hell. So I think the takeaway is that things are working. It's just this. I need to do this. And so I'm going to leave myself a note. Actually, do this. This is something I also like to do, is that when I'm gonna leave and come back to code, I'll put cliffhanger here. Because cliffhanger is really easy to just do that instead of having to do to do, because I slather to dos over everywhere and so do other people. But like searching cliffhanger in a code data, like no one ever uses this word, so I like to do that so that when I come back to it I can just search it and figure out where I left off. Anyway, before I lose my train of thought, figure out this logic here. Everything else seems maybe to be working pretty well. Gotta make sure you're copying the right past inputs in, and also make sure to copy in the local past inputs as well. And I can probably get rid of, where did I put that before? Put it here. I wouldn't want to copy it in here, I think. I think I would rather figure that stuff out in this block. Yeah. Something like that. Okay, cool. So next time I start to work on this, I'm going to sort out this logic in my head and then see where that gets me. And my other two options that I need to keep in mind are that I might A, want to entirely scrap this logic, come at it again fresh, or B, literally just clone the Slippy repository, try and retrofit it for what I'm doing, and see how far that gets me or what that ends up happening with that. That would be kind of interesting. So yeah, cool. All right, I think that's all the work I'm going to do on this tonight, or at least on stream. I don't think I'm going to do much work on it tonight off stream. I'm probably going to skim over an essay and then maybe play some late night volleyball. I don't think I have to get up in the morning for class, so I can sleep in. Very cool. Anyway, yeah, thanks for the people who are here for tuning in, even if it is a little boring for some of you. Maybe it's not. I don't know. It's certainly helpful, at least for me, to be able to kind of talk out loud about my thought process. It does help in some way, Yeah. Very hype stuff. I'm super, super, super excited to be fucking getting this stuff done, because once it gets to a state that I can test, oh, dude, motivation will go through the roof. I'll be able to integrate it with Rapido, I don't know how to pronounce it. I'll be able to integrate with his matchmaking stuff, which should be pretty simple, I think, and fun. I'll be able to then work on synchronizing matches in terms of having the right stage and characters and like the random seeds and stuff initialized on both clients. All that stuff is generally not like mentally difficult. It's just kind of actually doing it, and I kind of like that work. It's easy to do, kind of fun. Maybe I'll stream it. I don't know. And at that point, I'll be able to start testing with people and we can figure shit out from there. Yeah, cool. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night. Bye bye.